Good man.
All right, everyone, we are back. It's been a few weeks. It's been about 3 weeks, I think, since I started a new job. So we are back now with episode 20 of the Irish Iron podcast here with James Gibson. I first met James when I competed up in Belfast in 2019. I knew a little bit about you, and basically that you've won a few shows. You've done it as a type 1 diabetic, and you're also a father. And what's your story, my man? Let people know.
Well, I'm just a run-of-the-mill guy that likes to go to the gym. Started training when I was like 13 years old, mainly to do with rugby, actually. Rugby was my first sport. It was sort of passed on to me from my father. All guys in Dromore, if you're from Dromore, you're a rugby guy.
Yeah.
I literally studied at university. The reason I got into bodybuilding was I started to study towards chartered accountancy, and my lessons were on a Friday evening and a Saturday. So that meant Saturday games were out of the question. So decided, right, I need to find a pastime that I can work around, working 40 hours plus a week, studying towards a professional qualification. And bodybuilding just seemed to be, I trained anyway, but I wanted to do, like, have an end result to the training that I was doing. So that's why I got into bodybuilding back in 2014. I think I started my first prep.
Okay, so you actually started a year after I did. I mean, I started when I was 15, so that was 10 years ago when I prepped. And I did my first show in 2013, so you actually started a year after. But the progress you've made has been insane. So when you got into it, did you have any idea what it was?
Well, I did. I had a good friend of mine that I played rugby with, actually, Christopher Latham. He plays now rugby across in England. He was very, very good. His uncle was an ex-bodybuilder, ex-Mr. Northern Ireland Junior. Okay. So he invited us into Banbridge Weight Training Club. And it was a members-only gym back then, top powerlifters, top bodybuilders trained out of there. And we went down, and I remember I was about 16 years old. And 16, 17, and I remember Chris and me training, rugby style training, jump squats, all explosive workouts. And I remember one day all the guys sort of vacated the gym, and us young bucks thought, I wonder why everybody's gone. And I mean, we've seen these two monsters. I'm not sure if you know of a gentleman called Brian McAreevy, but Brian and Mark trained together, and the first time I seen them, I must have been about 17, 18 years old, as I say. And I remember just watching them train and just thought, God, I'd love to do that. They had all the pictures on the wall of the Mr. Northern Ireland's, Mr. Universes, Mr. Worlds. It was a born and bred bodybuilding gym. So yeah, I seen the two training, and I was like, God, they're fantastic. Like, what do these guys do to get into that shape and that size? So I sort of started steering away from the rugby style training, and Chris was very much like rugby was born and bred into him. He was made for it. So yeah, that's how I admit to this day, Mark and Brian were the first guys I seen. And the day that I approached them, and that was 10 years later, when it was 2016, I think, after I won the first overall titles, I thought, right, I've proved myself to these guys. They were my idols. I'm going to ask them, can I train with them? And the day that they looked at me and smiled and said, yeah, you can train with us, I mean, that was more rewarding to me than any trophy ever would be.
Yeah. So it's definitely a case of, you kind of worked up the ranks anyway until you became one of the guys who were. Like, I mean, I'd look at those guys and go like, okay, they're very respected. It's like you'd go to them and they'd be like the ideal of how to do bodybuilding in the country. And I mean, I wouldn't even consider myself up there. But the fact is, you worked the ranks. But when you first competed, it was as a junior, wasn't it? And then you worked up. So
I went to a close friend of mine, Stephen Black, and he was friendly with Mark Getty as well. And I just kind of went down to them and said, look, guys, and I remember the two of them looking at each other. It was back, I was 20, 22 at the time, 23, and looked at the two of them and said, I was buying supplements off Stephen, and I said, you know, I was thinking of maybe doing a bodybuilding show. And the two of them sort of had that look in their face, and I'm normally very good at reading people's, you know, judgment, even if they're not talking. And they're like, he's never going to stick this out. But they handed me a diet, said, give it a go, see how you get on. And I remember every so often going to Brian and Mark, you know, would you mind having a look at me and seeing how I'm looking? And I think I hadn't seen them for quite a while. On the first show, a junior show, I went to them, it must have been about 6 weeks out. And, you know, to everyone else around me, yo, Flip, look, you look fantastic. I was beating my ass in at the gym, doing the cardio, eating the meals, and to everyone else, I looked fantastic. I was getting smoke blown up my ass. And I remember going to Brian and Mark as they were coming out of the weights club. And I said, guys, would you mind having a look at me? So the two of them came in, literally said, right, strip off. How many weeks are you out? That was the first question. And I said 6. And they both looked at each other. And I think it was either Brian or Mark, can't remember which one. 6 or 16 weeks out, because you have about another couple of stone to come off you. So, you know, the difference between having you know, a person that knows what they're talking about compared to, you know, just people, random people in the gym blowing smoke up your ass, that was drilled into me from day one. To be honest, I sort of fluffed things up in the first show. Went up the North Coast 2 weeks before the show, had everything in sight, you know, sort of thought, oh, I can do this, you know, I'll be all right, I'll be fine. And I got my ass, well, I didn't get my ass handed to me. I placed 3rd in my first show.
Yeah.
But, you know, great experience. So I came in too fluffy the first show. Then for the second show, I've been doing a bit of research and guys talking about keto diets and everything. And sort of reducing the carbs down. But as a diabetic, I thought, no, I need carbs to survive. So went to Brian at about 9 weeks out. And I remember phoning him, Brian, have a look at me. And he looked at me and he goes, you're going to turn up the same way you did last time. So I remember from that point on, I was like, right, screw it. Let's see what a no carb diet does to a diabetic. Yeah. And I went keto for 9 weeks. I mean, it was just fish and asparagus, fish and broccoli. I was like a walking zombie by the end of it. I think for me, I got down to 84 kilos for the UK BFF, and I am not an 84 kilo man. I look like death. So that was the second show. So first show, too fluffy. Second show, I looked like a drowned rat. And then the third show, that was August 15, went round to April 16. I done the IBFA and the PCA. I ended up winning the overalls at both of them, which I was completely surprised at, because I remember arriving to the PCA and Mark Getty saying to me, why the hell did you do that Mickey Mouse show last night? You've messed up my routine for my shows today, because I was supposed to do the amateurs. Yeah. But because I won an overall, he had to put me into the Mr. Class 2. So it was an experience and a half. I honestly thought that the guys that I was even Class 2 with at the PCA were phenomenally shredded. Their condition was excellent.
Yeah, who was in it that year? Because that was the first year, wasn't it? So
yeah, that was the first year that the PCA had been ran in Ireland. So it was a nice year to win it, to be honest. Yeah. And you know, it wasn't you had the likes of Jason Ross at it, Brian Ward was at it.
Yeah.
You know, there was good bodybuilders at it.
Yeah, no, I remember looking at that show, and I always liked the PCA. Just the way it's always been ran, it's always been, you don't feel rushed. And I think the actual show is fun to watch as well. So I'd say winning that was a shock. But you didn't go to the finals or anything, did you? Just stay.
No, I had chartered accountancy exams to be dealing with, so it was kind of April shows were good, and then the exams were in June, so it gave me a bit of time to clear my head. And I always did stepped off the stage and I said, look, I can't do the finals this year because they're in June, and I have my career to worry about. So you know, it was a clean cut decision that I was going to be doing my exams rather than, you know, diet head in the gutter.
I think that's a problem people mistake though. It's like I've known a lot of bodybuilders who will, you know, they'll ignore the fact that, you know, you need some income, you need something outside of the gym. If you don't, and you don't happen to be making money, if you're banking on winning a pro card or winning an overall or sponsorship, it's not the way to go at all.
But even at that, you have to go to the Olympia, and it's the top. You know, I suppose with social media now it's changed. You know, you can make even people that don't compete, that have just a good physique, can make decent money through sponsorships and people paying them to, you know, to progress. And like online training and all these days is phenomenal. If somebody's in good shape, they put up a picture of themselves and say, "Look, I can get you in this shape," and people buy into that. You know, and who do you blame? Do you blame the person selling the shit, or do you say, well, the people buying the shit, it's your fault?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like that's half the reason I decided to get into the fitness and gym business, is because there's a lot of bullshit going around. So I was like, you know what? I know I'm not going to get like 100 clients, but I said, like, I'm lucky enough to be on a salary. So I was like, if I can just change the minds of maybe 5 people and just get them on a good route, you know, that'll impact me more than it's not. And again, I'm charging them nothing. So I'm like compared to anyone else. So I'm like, I'd rather they get good information as opposed to, you know, bullshit.
So that's the thing. You see, you can get people that are undercharging and they know so much, and then you get people that are throwing the sort of net out to catch the dummy that's going to pay them £500 a month for them to tell them, oh, eat chicken and broccoli every day. You're going to lose weight. You're going to lose weight. Yeah, of course you are, but you're not going to be happy about it. You know, I see a lot of online coaches, and I will admit there's some very knowledgeable people out there that are able to adapt people's lifestyles. And it's, if I'm ever giving advice, it's like the age-old question, what's the best form of cardio, that we all get asked. It's like, the best form of cardio is the cardio you're going to stick at, because it's all well and good doing 2 weeks of high intensity interval training, but if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to stick at it, so you're not going to lose weight. If you like getting on a bike, get on a bike for an hour a day. If you like going for a walk, go for a walk. And it's the same with diet. People aren't going to eat chicken, broccoli, and rice. You know, we do it because we have an end goal in mind. And then, you know, that's the long and short of it is, the only reason I stick to that sort of diet is because I'm going to get on stage. If I stop competing, I'm not going to eat that sort of food, you know, the year round.
No, not at all. And what even, but the interesting thing is, like, you work as an accountant. So with the bodybuilding, did you find like that those two meshed together quite well?
I make things, everything's adaptable. As I say, like, I'm a type 1 diabetic. I didn't have a coach. You know, I was a great believer in nobody's going to be able to learn my body the way I can. I'm a great problem solver in work, and it stemmed from, you know, bodybuilding is problem solving. You have a set meal plan, you change one thing, you see if it's made adjustments. Is it positive? It's negative. If it's positive, you keep it. If it's negative, you change back, you change something else. You know, everything's an experiment. And it's the same with bodybuilding and business. You know, you try to see how, if I change something, how much reward am I going to get? And it even comes then to the steroids, you know, putting in the minimum amount and seeing how far you progress. Like, there's too many guys are literally jumping in and taking everything under the sun, looking phenomenal inside 4 weeks, and then they don't understand whenever they come off it, you know, like they lose it all. It was built on artificial, so it's not going to stick around if the artificial enhancement isn't there.
Yeah, and even telling guys now, like I have a few clients coming from one client coming from a powerlifting background. He's never just started training as a bodybuilder before the lockdown hit, and I was like, he was all worried, and I was like, look, and I tell people this all the time, muscle memory is a great thing as long as the base is actually there. You have to get that base anyway before anything starts. I mean, you had your rugby background, and I assume you were lifting during that rugby background as well.
Oh, big time. Like, I got pulled into the Banbridge committee when I was like 16, 17 years old, being accused of being on steroids, and I didn't even know what a steroid was. You know, it's just like, I looked at the guys in the magazines, and like, it didn't even pop into my head. It was actually my father had said to me, he's like, you know, you go down this route, there's certain things that you'll be approached to take, and, you know, just, you know, you have to be very knowledgeable about what you're doing if you're going to go down this route. But as you said, back to the business, like I studied for the chartered accountancy exams. I worked 40 plus hours a week. And if you're telling me you didn't have an hour in a day outside of that to train, anyone that says they don't have time to train, that's an excuse.
Yeah.
You know, so it is what it is. You make the time, you wake up an hour early, you go to bed an hour later. It's not rocket science.
No, I mean, I tell people all the time as well, like, look, at the end of the day, even on the steroid side, you can take whatever you want to take, and I'm sure you'll get a great response. But there's no counting for are you doing your health checks? Are you making sure everything's on the ball, running there? I'm sure there was a few guys over the lockdown who, I'm not going to name names, but I mean, there's a few very young bodybuilders I know in their early 20s, you know, late teens, who are squatting ridiculous numbers and pushing these crazy weights. And I'm like, I know there's going to be the few genetic freaks who are able to move that weight. But if you are lean and ripped and you're deadlifting and squatting like, you know, 250 plus, and you're 19, 20, 21 years old, there's something going on there. And I'm just thinking, are these juniors going to burn out? Because
you've seen it not just nowadays, Owen, you've seen it in the past. You've seen juniors that are coming, that came out of the woodwork. They destroyed worlds, they destroyed universe, but they'd already hit their potential.
yeah.
You know, they were the best they were ever going to be at the worlds and at the universe. And when they didn't see progress, because progress takes time, they'll get to a certain point, but it takes years and years and years. Like, I've listened to your podcast with Tommy, Billy, Mark, you know, they all say, like, they're all well educated. They all know that time has put the muscle on them guys. You know, ask any bodybuilder, they still don't think they're at their best, because they look back and go, I can be better. You slowly add tissues. At the end of the day, you're breaking down cells and repairing cells. Cells are tiny, tiny things. You know, if you're going to add cells to your body, it takes a lot of time. And as I say, you had these juniors coming on to the worlds and the universe that done excellent. But when they stand up into the big ranks with the class guys, it's just not the same. It's a different ball game.
No, I fully agree with you. I mean, the first open class I did, when you were there, I was lucky enough to place third. So I was like, okay, I can hold it.
Yeah.
And I knew I wasn't lean enough. I knew going into that, like, I mean, I wasn't lean enough. But then it kind of just even got worse. So I was like, the next few shows, like, I wasn't lean enough, came last. Wasn't lean enough, came last. And I think it was water retention as well. It was water retention. And then the best show, I was at my best, but it was just a really good show. So I was like, you know what? But, like, I mean, did you find that when you stepped up into the ranks of the Open? Obviously, you had your own experiences, you were coming and off, but then when you stepped into the Open, you won the two shows. So how did that make you, what was the mindset after that? Did you feel a bit more confident going forward?
I'll be honest and I'll be open with everybody. I've always found that, you know, effort-wise in anything I've done, rugby included, you know, rugby was very big on that. My father said that if I was on form, I was excellent. If I wasn't in the mood, I was shit.
Yeah.
You know, so, and at a team sport, I didn't see it fair on the other guys that if I wasn't going to put my all into it, I shouldn't be there, because it's, you know, detrimental to 14 other players on the pitch. So with bodybuilding, on the other hand, it's in my full control, you know. So, and you know yourself, there's nobody, like even Dorian and Ronnie and all the guys would have had their off days. So you can have an off day without affecting anyone else. So I find that very beneficial. Going from the first show I done was junior IBFA. Then the UK BFF was the novice category, under 90 kilos. The guys I was competing against, I never felt outsized. I was like, even at the first show I ever done, I seen a couple of guys pointing at me, and a good friend of mine, Danny McCrory, actually said to a couple of his clients, is like, that's the guy to beat. And I thought this was great because, you know, you were getting talked about. And I remember backstage actually taking a shot of insulin because obviously I'm a diabetic. And I remember one of the older guys comes over and he's like, you know, son, don't be doing that backstage. So obviously, I know we all do it, but you know, just I was like, buddy, I'm a diabetic. I have to do it. You know, I wouldn't want to see anybody doing that. You know,
Yeah,
it's not. If I could take a tablet tomorrow and stop taking insulin, I would 100% do it.
yeah,
It's not a fun condition to have at the end of the day. But going from sort of that environment and getting a bit of talk about me even at the first show, the second show, I wasn't happy with myself. I preferred being that sort of fatter look at the first show than the second show. And then the third show and the fourth show, they were a day apart.
okay,
So I just went up to the IBFA looking to do the novice category, hoping to do well at it. And the guys were like, right, you won the novice. I remember being backstage actually, and they're like, right, you're going to win the novice. Do you want to do the open class as well? But there was nobody in it. One, you know, it was three guys, myself included. So there wasn't even any point. There was a class one, class two, and class three. So they just brought us all out on stage for the overall. So it was great, you know. But to me, it was my first overall show, so I was over the moon. And Liam Stewart run that show really well, and I always will remember it because it was my first overall. Then we travelled home that night, and I mean, from the pre-judging, I had started water loading for the next day, and I mean, driving home from Londonderry to County Down, it was a hard trip home, having to stop in the hedge every 5 minutes to, you know, get rid of the water I was putting in. So I went to the PCA the next day, and I was just ecstatic. I was eating food. Guys were telling me to stop eating because I'd already won the day before, and I was just there to
yeah,
have a bit of fun. And I remember backstage, I seen the two class two competitors, and I seen their backs, and they were conditioned, so conditioned, and I was like, I haven't a chance in hell here. I was there for fun.
yeah.
And saying that, I still look back at those two guys and I was like, how did I beat them? You know, to me, they were far better. And then whenever I won that one, I actually went backstage and I ended up being hypo on stage for the overall.
Okay.
So I don't remember a whole lot that was going on. And I remember speaking to the judges afterwards, and they said, you looked so calm and comfortable up there. I wasn't there. My brain was switched off. So I got off stage, threw a load of sugar into me,
Yeah.
and so came round, and it was a great experience. I never honestly thought I was going to win one overall, let alone two in 2 days.
Yeah. And then going forward, I mean, you won the NABBA overall as well. Like I've always thought the NABBA, like even in like down here, that's the first overall I'd love to win is the NABBA Ireland. Like it's just I've always thought it has that prestige to it. And then once you've done that, you know, it's the name. You know, it's, nobody gives a shit. Like the general public don't know what an IFBB pro is, but if you tell them you won like Mr. Ireland, Mr. Northern Ireland, or Mr. World or Universe, they know what they are, even though they're amateurs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, it is, as you say, like you get the odd comments like, oh, do you do a bit of training? You're like, yeah, and you sort of try to pass it off. And they're like, oh, do you ever do the bodybuilding shows? And we're like, yeah, it was actually the other day we were looking at a house, and she was like, you know, I don't mean to be rude, but do you do a bit of training? I was like, yeah, I do. And she's like, have you ever done any of those shows? And I was like, yeah, I'm actually Mr. Northern Ireland. And as you say, it's the look on their face. Whereas if I told her I was an IFBB pro, she'd be like, oh, right, that's nice.
yeah,
But to the guys in the know, that's far superior to what, you know, we're doing.
yeah,
But I agree. NABBA Northern Ireland was, I remember, as I say, when I was 16, joining the weights club and seeing all the Mr. Northern Irelands up on the wall. That was a target from I was 16, 17 years old. So to win it when I was, it's 2020, that was 2 years ago. So I was 20, 25, 26 when I won that.
yeah. And what was that like? I mean, did you go on to the Worlds or the Universe after that, or did you just stick with it?
My training partner had my soul destroyed for that show. He had told me I crawled across the gym one night, the sweat dripping out of me. Death looked like it was just going to pounce on me. And I looked at him and I said, I'm working my ass off for this. I've never worked as hard, because I'd actually lost the year before at PCA Birmingham at the Bodypower show.
Okay.
And he knew I'd sort of gone into that show with a bit of a, and I'll be honest, a bit of a cocky attitude, in the sense that, not cockiness in the way that I could beat anybody, but cockiness in the way that I was like, oh, I don't need to be as strict in my diet. I can do a wee bit extra cardio. I'd sort of started juggling things a bit, you know, because 2016 went so well. So 2017 set me up for a fall. And like, I got beat by Chris Jones and Randeep, you know, that are both NABBA Pro and PCA Pro now. So to get beat by those two that are so good is an accomplishment in itself, but still got beat. So going into the 2018 NABBA, I mean, he didn't even want to give me a slight hint that he thought, because he knew that I was told by somebody in 2017, oh, you're going to nail the show. And I took my foot off the gas. 2018, on the other hand, he killed me. I crawled up to him in the gym. I was like, I'm working my ass off for this. I'm working harder than I've ever worked. That was the most intense training session I've ever had, because he sort of backs away from me because I get so focused and so miserable would be a perfect way he would describe it. And he looked at me dead in the face in front of his client and he said, just, I've seen you work harder. And I mean, it killed me. He could have said anything else, and he just constantly done it. And it was actually the Thursday before the show. I took one of my best mates. He had called me and said, look, do you want to come up to the gym, get yourself out of the house, clear your head? And the two of them, we got into the gym. I went into the lunchroom, came out. They were laughing at me. And I threw the toys out. I'll openly admit it. In the middle of the gym, I was like, right, fuck this. I'm not turning up on Saturday. Who the hell's turning up to beat me? You have been going on that someone's going to come up and beat me and I'm second. How's it feel? How's it going to feel when you're second? You're not working hard enough. And they laughed at me and said, we thought you were going to win this about 8 weeks ago. So I was livid with them. I couldn't look at them in the face, but turned up on the Saturday and it came true. I get some good bodybuilders, you know, there's no doubt about it.
For sure. I mean, and after that, like, you just needed the break. Was it just a mental break more than anything?
Yeah, I had been phoned by Dave Warner about doing the British finals, and I'd said to him no. And then I was sitting at the dinner table one night with my fiance Lucy, and I was like getting texts from Dave and texting him back, and he was like, "Look, do the Brits." And I was looking at her, and I was like, "Should I do it?" You know, I'd already gone off the diet for a week. I could have pulled it back, but would have been as good. And I remember sitting down with Mark and I said, look, should I try this? Should I not? And he said, dude, your head's gone. You know, we killed you for that NABBA Northern Ireland. You've got it in the bag. Go away, regroup yourself, and sure, we'll come back and do it again another year. So to have that sort of person in my corner that can see logic, you know what it's like being in a diet, you know, and then going, oh, I could give it another 2 weeks. He knew I couldn't. So what was the point?
Yeah. See, my issue with dieting was it was all self-imposed. It was like, it's public enough. It's like bad relationships. So I got broken up with 3 times by the same person during 2019, pretty much 4 weeks out from every show. So I remember going into it, I would hit the 5-week mark and then I'd kind of just stall. I wouldn't get any leaner after 5 weeks. And like, I knew exactly what it was. And looking back on it, I'm like, you have to go through the stuff like that. I mean, it makes you learn. So like every
learning process. Definitely.
And for sure, like, I think it's a case of when you do win something, or when you do get to the next step of where you want, it makes it all that sweeter, as opposed to just winning straight off the bat and then losing. I mean, I'm sure we both know some bodybuilders who are phenomenal, and you know, they win all the shows and then they expect to make the big impact, and then, you know, they get destroyed, and it's usually very demoralizing for them, and they walk away at times. I mean,
we say if you're at the top, and it's a great saying, like the wolf at the top isn't as hungry as the wolf's coming up it. So, you know, they're set, like, a lot of guys, they think they're doing the guys good by bigging them up and blowing smoke up their ass, but they're setting them up to fail. You know, I'm very blessed that I'm surrounded by people They keep me very level-headed, and if I'm getting out of that sort of level-headed zone, they pull me back down to earth very quickly. So, you know, we all drive each other. We train with non-bodybuilders, we train with bodybuilders, we train with females, you know, female bodybuilders. Linda Cassidy would be one of our closest friends, and I can tell you that woman and her husband Garth, literally, they were two driving forces behind me in 2018. That man would not let me finish a set if I wasn't crippled under the machine. You know, and he's not from a bodybuilding background, but his wife's a bodybuilder, so he knows what it takes to push somebody to the level that you need to be at. And again, like I'm saying here, sitting the level you need to be at, I still don't to this day look at myself and think I'm any better than anyone else. You know, I'm still scared to go across the water. I will openly admit that, because I know they're bigger and better. You know, and when I dipped my toe into the pond in 2017, it just showed I need to work harder. So that's what I've been doing the past since 2018. I've been working my ass off.
So you haven't
try to go over there.
Yeah. So you haven't competed since 2018. That was your last show.
No, that was the last show. I had my son in 22nd of July 2019. It was just actually his first birthday there last week.
Yeah.
So he's been a wee blessing. He hasn't taken any. You know, my fiance is great. She deals with everything with him. But you know, I personally want to see him grow up, see him do everything.
Of course.
So bodybuilding doesn't. I'm blessed to have Mark in my corner, where I see such a family man is able to juggle, you know, family time with bodybuilding and work. So, you know, it's rubbed off on me, and I'm always grateful for that.
Yeah. I mean, like on my end, I remember like I used to like Christian McAlinden he's been my coach on and off for years. And he had a kid. He had a kid before he won his first Mr. Ireland. And I remember, look, if he can juggle that kind of stuff and work full time and be a father and win a title and go over to the worlds and the universe, I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, there's no excuse to not do it. But there's also the other side of it. You have to know how to say enough is enough.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
big time. Well, that was part of the reason that I didn't compete 2019. I know I said I was taking a break 2018, but I think I said that every year since I started competing.
Yeah.
But as soon as Lucy and I found out that she was pregnant, I just said, no, there's no chance she'll need me during this pregnancy. Well, I hope she needed me during the pregnancy. So definitely it's about juggling things, and that's a strength in itself. I'm not perfect at it by no stretch of the imagination. There's sometimes I am selfish, and I will, you know, go, oh, can we maybe hold off? I have to go train, or, you know, but my family and my group of people around me are very, as I say, good at pulling me back down to earth and saying, what's more important?
Yeah. I mean, will you have in mind maybe to compete in 2021, or is it just a case of seeing how the body feels and everything and just going from there?
That's exactly what it's going to be. I'm enjoying myself at the minute. The guys that I'm training with at the minute, Mark and Matthew, two of my closest friends, and like I'm enjoying seeing them progress. I'm progressing as well, but as you said, nothing's set in stone yet, and I probably won't set anything in stone until probably the early next year.
Yeah.
If I'm not making progress in the areas that I feel, even looking at myself, you know, and I'm very, very harsh on myself, I won't step on stage until I've fixed those areas.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be in the same mindset. You know, I said to people, like, it would be nice to repeat the same shows I did in 2019 and hopefully go for a win in at least one of them. But at the same time, if I'm not where I want to be by, let's say, 14 weeks out, I'm not gonna do it. There's no point. Like, I'm sure I'd look good and everything, but like to other people, but to myself, it wouldn't be what I want to put on stage. So
I agree with you, and I think a lot of the guys these days, it's like they do show after show after show, and you're not seeing improvements. And it's like you need to step away. Brian told me, I remember in 2017 going to him and saying, look, what do you think? Am I going to embarrass myself here going across the water? And he says, look, you're not going to embarrass yourself. You're progressing each year. And I remember after the show, and I said, look, I embarrassed myself. I came third. And, you know, I'm Mr. Ireland, and I came third at a show that I felt that I should have won. And He's like, you didn't embarrass yourself. You improved again. So only if you have good people around you telling you that you're improving and not just blowing smoke up your ass, because there's too much of that going on these days.
Yeah.
You know, there's no reason to not compete every year. But if you can honestly look at your physique year on year and say, I'm not making progress, you need to step back and you need to take a year out and grow.
Yeah.
Because anyone, it's the age old saying, and I think there's some amazing classic physiques, but if somebody came up to you tomorrow and said, you could look like Ronnie Coleman if I give you this tablet, I guarantee anyone in our industry would take it.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I tell people all the time, like, anyone who competes and does men's physique or classic or anything, no one goes into the gym and says, I want to be a men's physique competitor. They all start like because they want to do open, and then they realize maybe I don't fit there. So it's like they're lying to you if they're saying they don't want to be a bodybuilder.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I know some close friends of mine, they actually openly say, I respect what you do.
Yeah.
I don't personally like the physique that you have, in the sense that I can appreciate it, but I wouldn't want to look like that. And they have very classic looking lines, you know, and they wouldn't want to be, you know, huge. But again, are they saying they wouldn't want to be huge, or they just can't get huge?
Yeah.
And when you step back and look at it, there's nothing wrong with not being able to do it. You know, there's a lot of the best bodybuilders in the world. Not everyone's Ronnie Coleman. No, there's never going to be another Ronnie Coleman, in my opinion. But, you know, guys are still going to compete, and guys are still going to compete in local shows, international shows. So there's a niche everywhere, but to then lie about it, why?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm pretty sure you remember well enough the first time classic physique came to Ireland. You had tons of bodybuilders trying to cut weight and make weight. And then again, you had the guys who turned pro, like IB and Shane, but those guys were classic anyway.
I'll give you a funny story about Shane Cullen. I really like Shane, get on really well with him. And I remember going over to the show in 2017, and Ryan Alexander can back me up on this, because I said I was just at the height where I could get into class 2 or class 3. Yeah. I said, you know, you're right on the limit. And I was like, right. What class is Shane Cullen doing? And he said, Shane's doing class 2. And I says, I'll do class 3.
Yeah.
And he said to me after the show, we didn't really know each other back then. Yeah. And after the show, I texted him saying, mate, you look phenomenal. You know, I give credit where credit's due. I said, I'm so glad I was not on stage with you, because you just would have made me look terrible. And he said backstage, he says, James, I seen you backstage, and I was just like, I hope he's not in my class. So the guys, you know, there's a lot of respect, and that's what I like about the sport. Outside of the bitching, the guys that are actually dead on are extremely good crack.
Yeah. I mean, I always say like you gotta dish it and take it. I mean, like, I remember during prep, I mean, Shane, I was training with Shane during before he turned pro. I competed with him in 2013 as a junior, and I remember, but I even remember, so we go back a good few years, but I remember like during the prep, he just calls me a fat fuck, and I'm like, I get it, you know, but the thing is, because it's out of jet, it's, you know, it's crack, it's fun. But the thing is, when you're on that level with somebody, you can joke about someone's physique and everything, and you know it's a mess. But the problem is, some people take it to heart. I mean,
some people, as they're butterflies, they can't be, if they know, and their friends around them know, that you can't say or critique them, because they'll stop being your friend. So, you know, people build this wall up around themselves, and it's like, if you want to be in bodybuilding, the day that somebody says to me, you're the best bodybuilder ever, it's like, I'm never taking their opinion again, because it's not true.
Yeah.
And at least, you know, I'm level-headed enough to know I'm never going to be on the Olympia stage. I just do this for fun, and I just try to do the best I can do at it. I'm not, you know, the best genetics. I don't have the best diet, probably don't have the best work ethic, but I just do what I can.
That's it. I mean, you can only work with what you're born with, you know. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I know some people who were hyper responsive to gear. I know people who were hyper responsive to even just training, but they couldn't diet. And then you have to put it all together. I mean, you can't be good at one thing, and good at the other thing. I mean, my weakness has always been, I've had no issues getting big. It's always just been, I haven't been lean enough. So like every picture I look and I'm on stage and I'm like, I remember with Christian, his thing was like, oh, you're playing mind games with yourself. You're big enough. You're fine. You just need to lose weight and you'll look bigger. And I was like, yeah, but I don't want to. I don't want to. And it played against me. So
well, like, you have a good point there, because it's like we all spend so much time building up a physique and looking big, and then when we're asked to start dieting and start reduce the calories, increase the cardio, it plays. I don't care who you are. It plays mind games with you. And it took me to listen to the likes of like John Meadows and listen to his podcasts and actually listen to what some of those IFBB pros put themselves through.
Yeah.
You know, to understand that at the end of the day, we've built a physique, and if you do it properly, steroids to me are, food is what grows you. Steroids preserve the muscle tissue that's there. You get these guys that are on cycle all year round, and they're using it to grow, they're using it to cut. And then whenever the food comes out, the body's already in a stasis that it's used to a high amount of gear. So you reduce the calories down and their body just starts to shrivel. But you get a guy that can put the food away in the off season. That's the most anabolic thing you can put in your body. So you grow naturally and you use the enhancements to keep the muscle that was there. And you can go on you could drop your calories to 2,000, 1,500 and do an hour's cardio a day if you do it right. John Meadows, prime example of that. Yes, he's a genetic freak, but his method was, use the food in the off season, and all the IFBB pros do that. All the guys that I would have in my circle do that. Use the food in the off season, and only use what you need to preserve what you have.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to even just say the point there. I mean, regards to the off season, because I've started training. I do my own diet. Like I worked with when I was working with Christian, I just followed what he told me. It worked. It did work. It just didn't work when I didn't follow what he told me. And so my whole thing is now, I basically, moving forward, I say, you know what, I'm going to do my own diet, but I'm going to take the input from Niall Kinsella and just have him look at me. That's simply it. Just have him gauge where I'm at. But regards to the off season, it was always a case. It was always a case in the off season of pushing the food very, very high. Did you find your like, how heavy above your stage weight did you get?
It was always the same. Like the first show I ever done, I was 96 kilo. I think the maximum weight I was above that. Now I wasn't shredded. I think I had a good another 6 kilo to come off me at least. So the first time I ever got to 105 kilo, I could barely tie my shoes. I got shin splints walking down the street. It was a nightmare. When I dropped down to the stage weight for the UK BFF, I put 4 stone on in 2 weeks after that show. So it was mental, and blood pressure, organs, everything. I went from 84 kilo plus 4 stone. And as I say, 105 kilo, I felt horrible. I felt sweaty, not nice. I can get up in the off season to 122 kilo now. 105 kilo is around my stage weight now. So it's about, you need to get to that uncomfortable stage in the off season. And it's not healthy. Anyone that tells you that's healthy is talking out their ass. It's for the doctors, I should be about 12 and a half, 13 stone walking around, and I'm sitting comfortably at the minute in a clean out phase, sitting comfortable at 18 stone. So we push our body to a limit, and that includes your organs. Anyone that says different, that is not putting stress on your organs, is full of shit.
Yeah, it's definitely the weight gain, though. I mean, I remember the one thing I was told was weight's different for everyone. I mean, you can get the guys who have the muscle bellies and the structure and stuff like that, and the small, the light skeleton, and they put on 5 kilos, it looks like 20 kilos. But then you get the guys who could put on a ton of weight. Maybe they don't have the shape, but when they shred down, it's something else. And Like, did you find like did you gain weight easily enough? Like, once you, as you said, 4 stone after the show. So I'm like, did you? Yeah,
That was back when I had a very unhealthy relationship with food from
yeah,
probably keto dieting.
right,
And then obviously with the insulin that I take, have to take, I was eating chocolate. I think I had an entire chocolate cake to myself. And you know yourself, everybody knows insulin is like a shuttler. So whatever the problem with me as a type 1 diabetic, anything I eat, my body will absorb it. Insulin makes you absorb your food. So, a normal person could eat and eat and eat and eat, and their body will shut off and say, what the hell are you doing here?
yeah,
We're not gonna absorb this. Quit being an idiot. Whereas the likes of myself, I find that I can eat a crappy meal. I don't look better the next day. I just look watery and bloated. The night after, I done a photo shoot in 2018, the day after the NABBA, and like I had a Chinese that night. Didn't go crazy on chocolates or anything, but I woke up the next day and you could just see that dirty water filament underneath the skin, and it was just all puffy, and the photo shoot went terrible. I don't really upload any of the pictures.
yeah,
But the night and day difference for me as a type 1 diabetic. But then in the off season, it means that I can flood the body with food and just eat and eat and eat. And the benefit then of the insulin is obviously, as every bodybuilder knows, because it's the holy grail of bodybuilding. Um, it's actually it's terrible getting into sort of discussions like this, but I have a big appetite, so I
yeah.
can eat a lot of food, and like I wake up hungry, I go to bed hungry.
Okay,
So in the off season, I can eat a lot of food and I can put weight on. If I want to gain weight, I can do it very easily.
okay. It's just making sure if it's good weight as opposed to anything else.
Well, that's the thing, because obviously the insulin opens up the fat cells, opens up the organ cells, opens up every cell in your body. So it's a dirty thing to use to bulk, in the sense that if you're not eating ultra clean, like chicken and rice and like lean meats and lean carbohydrate sources and everything, you're going to be ingesting a lot of calories, and the salts and everything that you're ingesting.
Yeah,
It's not a good way to be. So I'm very different to your typical bodybuilder that can, eat pizza every night and, have 2 cheat meals a week and everything. For cutting phases, I have to be ultra strict, and I have to reduce the calories down and the carbs especially, because the insulin will absorb anything I put in my body.
okay. So I mean, when you're dieting down, you can't, like, going full keto. Is that like a complete no? Like, you wouldn't be able to do that, or would it just be a case of minimal carbs from other sources and stuff like
It
that?
worked. Yourself, on protein gets converted to carbohydrates. You're ingesting too much protein, it'll go into the liver, it'll produce carbs. So my energy sources I was on a serious amount of protein. So I was getting, my blood sugars were actually going high, and I couldn't understand this, and I didn't have enough knowledge back then. And it was actually a friend of mine, Phil Graham, that spoke to him about it. And he sort of explained the whole glycogenesis within the liver. So I had sort of carb fear after that show, because I put on so much weight so quickly eating carbs. It was like carbs are the devil. So I had to sort of get my thinking back straight. And going into the 2016 shows, that's, I started introducing carbs. I was on a sort of keto-based diet after the show to try to get my weight off again. And then for the off season, between that and around December, January time, I only really started introducing structured carbohydrate meals.
Yeah,
I was having to drink Lucozade if I went low or anything, but it wasn't enough to kick me out of ketosis. But it's not a nice area to be in. It's actually supposed to be a very healthy diet, but I just don't function very well on it, and I can guarantee the people around me say I don't function very well on it.
yeah. No, because I was even going to bring up the whole keto thing, because I remember talking to Tommy, and I remember I basically was told, oh, if you're not lean enough, don't carb up, just keep depleting and look dry, and you'll actually look better than this, as opposed to touching your carb and carving up. So I remember Tommy had me go, I'm not sure it was full keto, so I think it was just pretty much asparagus and fish and chicken, and I didn't touch a carb until after the show. I just did aldactone and pretty much just stepped on stage. I think I had a burger or something before the show itself. That was it. But with yourself, like, I mean, do you find like if you went full keto, so obviously the protein was getting converted into your carbs. If you hadn't gone full keto, you think that could have been like unhealthy?
I was told by the guys, Brian and Mark, whenever I then went to carb up for the show. I remember going to Brian on the Monday or the Saturday before it, and he was like, "You need to start carbing. You need to start carbing on Monday." And of course, the whole mind game started playing with you because I was peeled, like didn't have a bit of fat on me, and I sort of got it into my head. I was getting scared, going, "Oh God, you know, if I touch a carbohydrate here, I'm gonna blow up."
Yeah.
Then talked myself round by the Wednesday, and I'd start eating sweet potato and white potato just mashed up.
Yeah.
My body did not like it. My body just got rid of it. I didn't even gain weight on it. So the body wasn't used to digesting carbs.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I must have been putting away 1 kilo to 2 kilos of white potato and sweet potato Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it done nothing to me. I mean, nothing. I just stayed flat as a pancake, and the carbohydrates just went in one end and out the other.
Yeah. Yeah. That's insane. So I mean, going forward though, because you kept carbs in the diet, just more structured, did you find now it was easier to carb up, easier to
Definitely.
carb up?
You know, from going, I think I'd rammed in about 600 grams of carbs the Wednesday, up to 800. I was on 1,000 by the Friday, trying to get some sort of fullness to the body for the
Yeah.
keto style diet. Whereas in 2016, I think I carved up on maybe 200-300 grams of carbs a day,
Yeah.
and I didn't need to go stupid amounts, and my body reacted really far better than it ever had before.
Yeah. No, that's interesting enough because the only other diabetic bodybuilders I would know, they all have their different ways of approaching it, but it always ends up to be something along those lines. Like if they go full keto and then they don't, they don't touch the carbs. When they try and touch the carbs, it doesn't doesn't do nothing. Whereas with myself or anyone else, it's definitely a case of something will happen. It just might be bad in terms of weight gain. But like I'd rather have no weight gain than overly watery weight gain.
Well, the thing
Um,
is, I went into keto because I was told that I was going to end up looking the same that I did at
yeah,
the first show, and I didn't want that to happen. You know, if you leave yourself enough time, there's no reason you need to go into ketosis. Now, my carbs, I would openly admit, they dropped down to stupidly low levels. I'd be on 100 grams of carbs or 100 grams of oats a day from about 5 weeks out,
yeah,
and that would be my only main carb source.
yeah,
Um, Obviously, if I go hypo, I don't want somebody walking in the gym and seeing me 5 weeks out from a show and drinking a bottle of Lucozade. I have to do that if I'm going hypo because
yeah,
it's either the choice between being in a coffin or being on stage. You know,
yeah,
I have to take in a slightly more. But the next day, I look at my carbs and I could drop my oats down to 80 grams and
yeah,
reduce my insulin down again because it had the carbohydrates the day before. So
yeah,
it's not on a daily basis. You need to look at it on a weekly basis. You what's the age old saying? One bad meal is not going to ruin a diet, and one good meal isn't going to turn you into, the most shredded person on the planet. It's consistency wins.
yeah. I mean, even going like, but it's quite funny because hearing that, like when you said super low carbs, like you say 100 grams of oats, I'm like in my head, I'm like, okay, that's actually okay. But to the average person, I'd be like, what the fuck is he doing? Like, so I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's okay. I mean, that's low enough, but like you can go lower. Like but
Yeah.
do you find now like that guys aren't willing to, it's not even dieting hard. It's more question. They kind of they ease into it maybe, and they don't push it when needs to be pushed. They keep easing into it. You find
Well,
like
2016 or 2018, sorry, the constant comment was, and I seen it all over social media, people saying like, oh, these idiots dropping their carbs so low and being miserable and everything. And the funny thing was, this was about 10 weeks out, and like I go low carbs quite quickly.
yeah,
And then whenever it came to about 5 weeks out, and I was used to it and I was happy and I was just going about my daily business. And these people were crying because they got their muffins taken off them and their cookies taken off them because obviously they weren't fucking ready to get on a stage, and I'm laughing because they didn't, you know, take the advice from the people on their home soil, but they were going to people across the water. And then whenever they started saying, right, you need to go to sort of like a keto style diet because you're still fat.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
whereas we gradually pull the carbs out and pull the carbs out. Like, Jesus, if I walked into the bloody gym eating a cookie or a muffin, I think Mark would kick me out the door if it was, you know, 5 weeks out from a show. But these guys, you know, they're looking at the likes of, you know, they're looking at the IFBB pros that have so much muscle mass that they can get away with it. I always said to people whenever they were like, how does Mark eat such and such on his diet? And I says, that man diets on 6,000-7,000 calories. I diet in maybe 3.5.
Yeah.
That man could eat a Snickers and it's like a drop in the water to his calorie pool.
Yeah.
I eat a Snickers and it's a 12th of my daily calorie intake. So it's bigger impact on somebody. You know, a bikini girl on 1,500 calories can't consume a Snickers because it's a majority of her flipping calories for the day. So, you know, the more calories you can consume, the more you can get away with. The more muscle mass you have, the more you can get away with. But I think a lot of the young guys coming in nowadays are trying to do what the pros done, but they don't see what they had to do to get there.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely bang on. Because, I mean, even going forward, I know for a fact, like the next prep I do, I want to get ready early. And then, like you said, you can relax because you're at that stage 3-4 weeks ready and you're good to go. And that definitely was my issue. You know, I'd leave it a bit too late, and then I'd suffer at the very end. And look, don't get me wrong, as a junior, I could wing it, absolutely could. I got my placings as a junior, and I was a cocky junior because I remember going into shows, going, yeah, no, I'll if anyone beats me, they'll just be leaner than me. And I'm like, looking back now, like 5 years on, or 8 years on, I'm like, fuck, like I would not be thinking I want to get beaten because guys are more conditioned than me. Like, that's not the right mindset to have. I mean, there's plenty of big bodybuilders, but getting lean and having that combination is that's the hidden gem, really.
Well, as Tommy said to you, a leaner bodybuilder is going to have the better look about them. You know, it's the difference between, it's playing to your strengths. You know, you've got the likes of Brian Ward, whose condition is excellent. Ross Corey's condition is excellent. I just don't get that condition.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to, I tried it in 2015 and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But you're lean enough. But the thing is, you're lean enough with the muscle you have. It's like, it's always about presenting the best for yourself. Like, I mean, there's certain guys I know who don't have that size, so they just get peeled.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a combination of, what works for yourself. And when you dig trying to deplete down to that point of, sub 90,
it wasn't a healthy look.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that's the thing, like, people don't realize that professional bodybuilders who aren't 212s anyway, but even 212s at 5'4" or 5 at 96 on stage, that's just stupid to look at. But a guy like your height is gonna have 20 kilos of stage weight on the pro stage. People don't realize how big.
It's the likes, you look at pictures of another good friend, like I'm pretty friendly with. There's nobody really in the industry I don't get on with.
Yeah.
You know, David Henderson, his muscle belly insertions, he looks like a monster on stage. You know, he's a fantastic physique. You know, and I think he'll go far. You know, and like his muscle belly insertions and everything, as I said,
Sure.
you know, he's a light frame and the bellies just sit nicely on him. So, standing next to me on stage, he's going to look like he's a hell of a lot more muscle, even if I'm 20 kilos heavier.
No, that's exactly it. I mean, even looking back, I just remember, I was going to bring it up earlier, but I have Glenn Ferguson coming on the podcast. And I remember looking at his physique. And I remember seeing the pictures of him. And I'm like, that guy looks like Paul DeMayo. And then but that's the kind of insertions and the pro and everything that makes a pro. Is you just look at them and go, you're gonna pop the phone down and just forget about it and play some football or something. But
I think we all need to get into a group and get Glenn and just lock him in a gym and just push his food through the door, because as you say, You know, looking at pictures of Glenn back when he was a junior,
Yeah.
he was phenomenal. You know, I would talk to Glenn quite regularly, and we'd send the odd picture through, like, what do you think I'm looking like and all. And like the guy, even when he's not training, he looks phenomenal. You
Yeah.
know, he's made for the sport.
Yeah. I mean, is he still training and everything now? He's just not bodybuilding.
Oh, he's just training and everything.
Okay.
As you say, he's just not
Yeah.
bodybuilding.
Fair enough. I mean, at the end of the day, the problem is a lot of these guys who genetically have it don't have that mental. They don't want it. They don't want it. And like, I have a few friends who I know could have done very well. They just didn't want to do it. And I'm like, I think like if you're like ourselves, and you know, you have to kind of work for it, kind of appreciate it a little more. So I mean,
Well, the
surrounding
work
this,
ethic needs to be there. You know, as you say, there's guys that do their first ever show and they're phenomenal, but they never want to put themselves through that again.
yeah,
And you have to have the mindset of a bodybuilder, the body of a bodybuilder, and what would you say, the repetition. We're all creatures of habit.
yeah,
You know, I love getting on to a prep diet and, you know, knowing what my next meal is going to be, knowing that it's going to be in 2 hours, and I'm regimented. I was born and raised like that. You know, as a type 1 diabetic, my mother back then it was very strict, and you know, I was up at a certain time. I had breakfast, then I had a snack, then I had lunch, then I had a snack, then I had dinner, then I had tea before I went to bed. So as a child, I was eating like a bodybuilder.
yeah, yeah. So it's kind of literally just adapt. It wasn't even adapting something new for you. It was just
It was
keep
just
doing.
increasing the protein and the volume of the food.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but that's the thing. Like, but that's the what people don't realize about being a diabetic is like I have so many friends who are like, oh, I'd love to hop on some insulin and everything, but I'm like, look, I tried it for a week, and I was like, I stopped for one reason. I didn't feel bad or anything, but and nothing like regards the meals weren't ready. Like life was exams and all that stuff. So I was like, I'm not going to do all that if I'm not able to take full advantage of it. But for someone like yourself, you don't have the luxury. You have to take the shots.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It's like there's the past 2 days. As I said, like that hypo that I took at the PCA, the first ever PCA. You
yeah,
know, I don't talk about it a whole lot. You know, the past 2 days, I've been juggling my blood sugars. I've been shooting up and down.
yeah,
You know, it's not a nice condition to have. And people say, oh, he's a type 1 diabetic. He gets it easy. But a lot of people don't seem to understand. If you have literally no glucose in your system, your body turns catabolic.
yeah,
And if you've too high sugars, your cells turn off. And again, your body turns catabolic.
yeah,
So you need to be keeping in that 4 to 7 range constantly to be able
yeah,
to build muscle tissue. And, you know, it's not like a thing that, oh, I can get an injection every 2 weeks and it'll be fine. It's every minute of every day, you know. So, you know,
yeah.
anyone that thinks, I've had people come up to me in the gym and go, you know, oh, I've heard from a few people you're diabetic. Does that not make it easier for you? And I could throttle them.
Yeah. I mean, I have a few friends now, like they were diagnosed type 1, but like it was 20 years into their life, you know, they didn't grow up with it. It was, it just came upon them. And I was like, I remember because I didn't see him for one of my friends for weeks, months, and he came back and he was really skinny. And I was like, what happened to you? Oh, yeah, no, I'm type 1 diabetic. And I
Yeah,
was like, oh, fuck. Because type 2, you can reverse,
yeah.
you can diet out. But did you find now, because you'd be fairly on point with your diet, like, I mean, that is making it easier in that sense. Like, it's definitely
Big
the work.
time. Like between probably I started training hard when I was 16, 17 for the rugby. I went to university, sort of took a bit of a back step, still played the rugby and everything, but you know, university life, your diet went out the window, your consistency went out the window. And like I dropped a lot of weight and looked very, you know, it looked like it put 20 years on me.
Yeah,
It just wasn't. If I'm not in a strict regimented diet of eating at certain times, it can actually, you know, if I don't eat enough carbs yesterday, it does have an onset effect today. So
yeah,
it's probably programmed into me just to eat constantly.
yeah. I mean, I tell people that even ties into carb cycling. Like I tell people this, I would rather like have a client of mine have a big cheat meal or something, or even just a high day, before the day before a big muscle group, because it takes
Yeah.
time to digest. I never have someone have a big increase on the day they're training something because it
Yeah.
doesn't digest.
I've tried it. I've played about with it, and like actually currently I've tried to do the whole influx of carbs before training, take a shot of insulin,
Yeah.
and I think Gary's getting fed up with the amount of hypos I'm taking during my workout, and you know it just shows that it doesn't work. And you
Yeah.
look at marathon runners and all, they sort of drop the carbs for a few days to sort of make the muscle want to absorb more glycogen, and then they carb load for a few days before. It's not like the morning of the marathon they're starting to shove loads of glucose into them. It takes a long time for glucose to get into the system. So I completely agree with you. And there's a couple of close bodybuilding friends that in the past, when I seen them giving their clients cheat meals on a Friday night because they're a big leg session the next day, I was like, oh, that's bullshit. It should be the morning you should be doing it. But now I've learned it's not. It does take the day prior to sort of load yourself up for the following day.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky. See, I was the other opinion years ago. I always thought it was the day, but I had a friend of mine who was very far ahead of his time. And I remember all the stuff he told me, I actually do now. And I'm like, all that kind of stuff, like, just was thought of. You just didn't think like there was the way of doing things, and that was it. I mean, you didn't question it. You didn't. If you had a cheat, it was before a big body part. And there was certain things you did, and you just had to stick with it. But now, like, people are questioning it. But I think that's a good thing. I think you have to find what works for yourself. So
I honestly think the biggest thing is the consistency.
yeah,
You could do something slightly wrong, but if you're doing it consistently, right? Say you're not eating your carbs before your big leg workout, but you're consistently having a good routine throughout the week, you will progress. When we start talking and we start going into the fine lines of carb loading and using certain compounds and everything, you're only going to be getting that percentage better, and that only works at the top level.
yeah,
The guys at the top level, then they've so much muscle mass that they probably could carb load prior to their training and absorb it far quicker and everything. But for us amateurs, it's consistency is our biggest killer, and
yeah.
guys just can't be consistent.
Yeah, I mean, I find, like, again, going back to the guys who do show after show after show, you get peeled. But I tell people, look, it's actually easy to get peeled once you don't gain weight, because you're just getting to where you were. I mean, I've said to people, like, I've said to myself, I said, like, if I don't get above 100 in the off season, like at least 110, 105, I'm not going to compete. I don't want to compete because I know I get down and it's usually 15 kilos under. That's where my stage weight is. So I'm like, in my head, if I get up to 100 or 105, I'm going to be 85, high 80s on stage, and then I'll win something. So I'm like, but you have to push. You have to get to that, level of just food and feeling bad about waking up and going, I need to drink my shake. I don't want to drink it.
But you know yourself, you see there's too many. It's Instagram and social media has sort of destroyed. You look at the old style bodybuilders, they did not look like, they didn't take their tops off much in the off season. Just the IFBB pros still were like solid, like Lee Priest and Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler. They were huge and they still had the muscle bellies about them. But the amateurs, we just didn't have that much muscle. But you still need to get to that uncomfortable stage to be able to progress now. And then you see the argument these days is, oh, if you put on so much fat, it's going to be much more work to take it off, which is true. But I find being more relaxed in the off season, just getting the food in, training your ass off, getting a bit fluffy. Like I know I upload a lot of images of my abs and everything, in the off season, but that's genetically gifted.
Yeah.
You don't see me putting a lot of back pictures up because my back just gains fat and my ass and my hamstrings. Like the back of my body looks like, something in a flipping diet before and after pictures. And then you turn around to the front and I'm quite lean in the abdominal area, but I put the weight on the side. So, we're never gonna. It's quite funny because you see everybody saying like, oh, I upload the truth, but it's very rare you would get. It's always going to be a couple of pictures. Oh, I
Yeah.
look good in that one. I'll put that one up. You know, nobody really
Yeah.
likes to upload a terrible picture of themselves.
Yeah, I never used to post my legs because up until like 2 years ago, they didn't have any cuts in them in the off season whatsoever. And now I'm like, they're actually probably as lean as my upper body now. And like, I know, like the funny thing is, I know if I dieted for October, I'd be peeled. But in terms of gaining the weight back, I'm just hoping that like it kind of gets on proportionately. You know what I mean? I don't want like something to get washed out, but that's the thing. You find every time you've gotten like in the lockdown, people have obviously, just to finish off the last 15 minutes, like people have gotten lean, like they've lost weight during the lockdown. And I've always had the mindset that every time you drop weight and you get back to where you were, you're going to look better at it anyway. You're going to be a little bit leaner, probably have a little bit more muscle. So, like, I mean, you'd definitely, would you be thinking like, okay, it's probably a blessing to people, you know, people who needed that little bit of a rest and then just.
I think, yeah, but the problem is in their heads, they probably didn't take a rest in the sense that that was a perfect opportunity for people to sit back and go, right, it's time to chill out, let my body recover, your central nervous system. The amount of, like, I know I'm sponsored by Condemned Labs and I sell the fat burners and I promote the Convict and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's
you know,
would their pre-workout would have a ton of stims in it, or would it not?
oh,
Like,
big time. You know,
okay.
it's probably one of the heavily stemmed products in the UK. And anyone I give it to, they love it. You know, the fat burners as well. The Arshan's is probably one of the strongest fat burners you'll get.
Yeah.
It's good quality stuff. You know, the owner Michael's very big into the science behind everything. But you know, recently I seen that as a great opportunity. I've been a stim junkie since I was about 15. My brother actually was the first one to bring pre-workout into the house.
Yeah. What was your first pre-workout? I mean,
it was Eno Explode, and it was the sachets. It was the good old-fashioned Eno Explode.
Yeah.
And I don't think I have had a proper long break off it since I've been about 15, 16.
Yeah.
So I seen that as an opportunity. I'm not going to be training as intensely, so I was just taking the creatine supplement and the hemoglobin supplement, which increases hemoglobin in the system. And to be honest, I was training later at night. It made it easier, more flexible, and it just helped with the central nervous system.
Yeah.
And I thought I was just, you need to give everything a break. You need to give the mind a break, the body and the internal organs a break. So I hope people took that, but I know from my own perspective, I know all us bodybuilders think the same. We were all trying to find a way to still get that thrill of training. So, you know, I bought home gym equipment, you know, and I was trying to bust my ass down in the stables that we have. And then I know other guys. I actually bumped into a good friend whenever I was over buying that equipment, and he was taking it back up to Belfast.
Yeah, Brian Ward is a full gym now. I'm just like,
oh yeah, that boy's kitted out. COVID's been the best thing to happen for him. He's now just has to literally walk 5 steps, and he's in the fully kitted gym.
Yeah. I mean, I find it funny. I got my bands, and like I got them a month into it, so I was like, and I was looking back at pictures, and I was like, I remember at the time I was like, okay, I wasn't that big, and then I looked in the lockdown, and I'm like, fuck, okay, I was pretty big, and then I'm training and I'm trying to get the pump and everything. Then I just stopped. So I was like, you know what? Mentally, I was okay with it. You know, I know I've been in the game long enough. Like, I know it's not going to be okay, but for younger guys and people who aren't experienced, I know a few guys who had mental breakdowns. Like, they just didn't have a good time with it at all.
Big time, but it was. You think about it, it's our social circle. You know, the gym. You know, people go down to the bookies, people go down to the golf club, people go down to the football pitches. Our social circle is the gym. You know, our release is the gym. So it wasn't just the fact of lifting weights; it's where we socialize. So it was a big issue for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I feel sorry for anyone that, you know, didn't have the benefit to do what I done.
Yeah.
And being able to lift the weight. And you know, social media is great these days because we can all chat, but there's a difference between chatting over a video and chatting to somebody face to face.
I mean, I was telling people that like I was blessed because I live in the countryside, so even though I couldn't lift my weights, you know, I just did cardio, and you know what? I'm like, when I gain all that weight back, like I remember I did legs once, and I was like, I went back and I was like, okay, I managed to squat 140 for a set 10 for my first leg day in like 15 weeks. And I was like, okay, I'm okay. I'm okay. And then I looked the next day and I was like, okay, my legs actually look pretty good. And I was like, maybe that recomp did something. But a lot of guys didn't, like, don't have that luxury of being able to go off and train or do anything. And I mean, Luke Sando was, like, when he passed away, that was like, that was a shock. Because I remember, like, he was so bright and vibrant, and he was a character and a half. I mean, look, it was lucky in a sense that none of our crew, like, I mean, if one of our crew had passed, I was like, because that's what I was thinking. I was definitely thinking that something's going to happen to somebody I know, and it's good that it didn't. So
no, it was very sad because I'd only really started watching James Hollinghead and himself, and the podcast, the Redcon podcasts.
Yeah.
And then when I heard about it, you know, I was watching them in the cardio in the morning, and when it happened, you know, it was devastating to happen because anyone that I'd spoke to that had spoke to him, I didn't know him personally, but everyone thought he was just this happy, you know, fun guy, and it just shows you what's going on under the surface with a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few pros in person, and he was one that I wanted to see. I think it was like him. I want to see Jay. I've seen Lee and Kai, and they were huge. I mean, that was after Lee won the universe, and he looked nuts.
Yeah.
Kai just came second, and he looked. I remember trying to reach my arm around him to take a picture. Couldn't do it because his lats just came down and they kind of just protruded out. And I was like, that's just not human.
Yeah,
but,
you are freaky.
Freaky, man. Freaky. But I mean, just for the last little bit of the podcast, I suppose, is there any amateurs coming up or any bodybuilders that, like, even pros, Irish pros or Northern Irish pros that you think, you know, are set to, who'd you rate? I mean, not rate, but, you know, I think of the future, that kind of thing.
See, I've come up through the ranks of, like, being in the weights club. You know, the guys that I was looking at were the old school bodybuilders. It was all old school. Old school was drilled into me, so I'm very looking for an old school physique.
Yeah.
So whenever I look at things like the likes of Glenn Ferguson, you know, stands out a mile to me, just the big muscle bellies, David Henderson, you know, I'm talking about guys, seasoned guys.
Yeah.
Guys coming up through, Giovanni from down your way.
Yeah, I used to train with him. He trained with me like for a full year in my prep. And he was off everything. He wasn't taking anything. And he was like, I was just looking at him. And then I remember he started his prep and he was in his own little group, so I didn't really interact with him. Yeah. I remember seeing the pictures of him and I was like, yeah, he worked for that. But he's a genetic freak. But I mean,
definitely.
Josh would be another guy I think.
Coiler's a gentleman as well. Like, I get on very well with him. I went actually down to Monastervin with him last year, the year before, to train with Shane. So, you know, Josh has lapped on some muscle since he competed against me in 2016. And the funny thing was, I remember, you know, getting off stage. He's like, I was on stage with bodybuilders there. And I said, you know what the funny thing is? You were bigger than 90% of the bodybuilders on that stage.
Yeah.
And you're a muscle model.
Yeah.
So I honestly think he'll go up in the classic. And if he keeps pushing it and pushing it and pushing it well and keeping those lines, there's no reason that he can't do amazing things in the classic physique. I don't know if he would want to go to open, you know, because, like, he's a good looking guy. You know, classic, I think, would just suit him more in the sense that he doesn't want to blow out those nice lines, and it would be detrimental for him to do that. So I think classic's definitely where he's going to succeed. You know, if he keeps growing, you know, the problem with it is you can't just grow the arms, the legs, the back without the stomach growing. It will eventually grow. So that's probably not what he's looking to do. You know, there's times you look at the pictures of me in 2017. I was dirty bulking for that. And you could tell on stage that my stomach was extended quite badly. Not even from the front, but from the sides. But, you know, the organs, the soft tissue on the inside needs to go somewhere. So if you've got a rock hard core from the front, it's going to start popping out the sides. And it was very visible for me personally when I look back at my pictures. Another guy that actually isn't about nowadays, he actually was one of the ones that got me into it, was Curtis Harrison. Sort of worked under Phil Graham and everyone, and, like, again, genetic potential to kill, but just didn't want to put himself through it. You know, he loved to
Yeah.
party and he loved to do things, so he didn't want to be doing that. Up in Northern Ireland, the up and coming juniors, wouldn't be a whole lot of juniors actually competing up in Northern Ireland at the minute.
It'd be the same down here. There'd be a few, and they
Yeah,
don't get in condition anymore either down here. And when they do, they win. I mean,
yeah.
like a friend of mine who was a natural won the NABBA Ireland, and he was just conditioned. He was outweighed by 20 kilos, but he won on condition. So
There's a couple of guys like that competed recently there. There's a guy Dylan, and I think he's lovely lines. And when the muscle matures a bit more, I definitely think he'll be good. You know, at the top amateur level, there's no doubt about it. I do think he is a Mr. Northern Ireland. In terms of who's probably gonna, you know, you don't want to name too many names or leave one out, or you know, the guys and they'll all get butt hurt, but guys that, you know, there's the likes of Ben Gardner, won the juniors for the past 2 years, so you know he's got good genetic potential, and he's a hard worker by the looks of it, so there's no reason he can't keep going.
Yeah, I mean, my issue going forward is I actually don't know any of the juniors except the guy I prep. So it's like it's not my scene anymore. I mean, even though it was only I did it when I was 18 and I didn't know anybody. I came fourth, so I was like out of 21 guys at the time. So I was like, this is deadly. Then I disappeared, but I came back. But I knew people at that point, you know, through the shows and through training with people, and then. But it feels weird looking back on the class because I genuinely don't know any of them. So it's like I know their physiques, and it's sad to say I just don't think the quality is there. I think there's a lot more drugs. And
as you say though, you know, when you competed, there's not a whole lot of the guys that you can, and the junior lineup that I competed against, out of the top 3, Kevin's still competing. He's cracking physique. But most of the juniors I competed against aren't, you know, Dean that won it. Dean's phenomenal physique. I played rugby against Dean, so you know, Dean was a good rugby player, a great bodybuilder. He beat me in bodybuilding as well. You know, he was always very good at whatever he put his mind to, he could do. And you know, he's had a bad leg injury recently there, so I hope he recovers from it, and I do hope to see him back on the stage. And then you look at the likes of the 2015 show I done. Ross Corey handed my ass at that, you know, so it's great. He's really, you know, he keeps good condition all year round, and he's really starting to put on some meat. And the likes of Brian Ward was at that show. Brian's coming on well. So, you know, there's no reason, you know, that any of these guys, it's consistency. It's just to see who's going to last the longest.
I think it's burning out as well. I mean, even just to finish out the podcast, I always tell people it is consistency, but I mean, out of the first junior show I did, there's me and Shane would be the only guys currently competing. And then I think Kevin Byrne, but again, I wouldn't be in touch with him. And then from 2017, there was actually like 9 of us. There was 8, 9 of us in both shows. And then, like, I mean, it's just myself and Mark Hodson and Giovanni now. And I think Colin Lynch, who nutty physique. He just came out of nowhere and was peeled to the bone. And he's another guy. He's probably the one junior I've said who's brought the condition. Just once he fills that frame, he'll win overall. So he's already placed well. But look, we're going to finish up anyway. I think we're getting to that time. But James, it was a delight having you on. Actually, I'd like to have you on again, and maybe we go more into depth about the you know, the food and training bit, because we didn't talk about any of the training whatsoever.
Yeah, well, my training's pretty simple, as I think you know, Owen, from the videos I upload. It's hard, it's heavy, it's, you know, go for broke and then go home and recover. So there's not a lot of chat around it. I know I can divulge a bit more on it, but you know, if you want to slap muscle on, you have to stress out the muscle. So it's been a pleasure, mate, doing this, and I hope I haven't rambled on too much.
No, absolutely, but I suppose for anyone listening, do you do any coaching, or do you just
I take on a few. There's a few guys. I don't really advertise it. You know, the guys that have come to me in the past, there's just sort of like, can you help me get into shape? And I try to keep the numbers low on it so I can be more sort of personal. I sort of send out a questionnaire, get their daily routine, get what they like food wise. You know, so I tell them to tell me what they do from Monday to Sunday. What food do they like? What do they consider healthy? What do they consider unhealthy? And then I build a diet and a training plan around that. It's not just a cookie cutter diet that's thrown out at them. So, you know, I'm always open to chat to people, but I'm very selective about who I take on, in the sense that if I don't think you're going to put the work in, I'm not going to waste my time. You know, money doesn't really mean much to me in that sense. Like, I have a full-time job. I'm a bit like yourself. I'd rather see somebody do well with the knowledge I'm providing than, you know, somebody pay me a fortune and to not follow what I'm telling them. I find that very disrespectful.
Well, that's it, man. That's it. I mean, I'd be the same opinion. I mean, I'm not going to say that again because I just say the same thing. But look, I will have this all tomorrow. And for anyone listening, what is your? It's just James Gibson, 1970s.
I think it's just James Gibson, and then my date of birth, 19th of July, 1991.
Deadly man. All right. Well, look. And for anyone listening, obviously, you know, if you want to listen, if you want to contact James for a bit of advice or anything like that, obviously Instagram would be the best way to do it. And that is us.